Emergency crews are trying to contain the flames, but are having difficulties due to high winds. So what's the consequence of the leaders not abiding by the rule of law? What's the ultimate consequence?
Then we're not a republic.
The crowd at Harriet Hageman's election watch party was ready for a win, and boy did Harriet Hageman deliver. Especially during a pandemic, supporting your local businesses is not only the right thing to do, but pretty sweet. For Wyoming News Now, I'm Valeria Fugate. Really good. Americans head to the polls today in what's being called the most important midterm elections in American history. Peter Alexander has the latest. As we get closer to the elections, we take a look at misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation and their effects on the electoral process. Misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, or MDM, has been a hot topic during recent elections.
Certainly the problems with misinformation that is out there is that people don't trust government.
MDM is political information that is false, deliberately misleading, or factual but out of context. Officials say this happens for political positioning, but historically not to this magnitude.
That erodes our trust in our representation and erodes our trust in our country, and it just erodes just the fabric of our democracy.
Today, we see it in bipartisan platforms on social media and editorial news to increase voter turnout.
It's to evoke some emotional response. Facts are boring. They're very black and white. And so if the information you're reading is really triggering you, then it's gone beyond just a fact.
Officials say by casting doubt, MDM chips away at the legitimacy and faith in elections, facts, and law.
Those that are creating, this information and deliberately trying to mislead and cause distrust in the process, really, shame on them. Because they are literally domestic terrorists.
Schoen says the best way to debunk conspiracy is to get involved, volunteering for elections and learning about its security firsthand. Schoen says ballot machines are not hooked up to the internet and are tested by counting 1 million ballots accurately before they go out publicly. Paper ballots are counted against poll books and tabulators several times during elections, so ballots cannot go missing.
We all want the same things. It's just how we achieve that. And that's where the debate should be. What's the avenue to our common goal as opposed to, is this person good or evil?
Officials say our faith in the electoral process will help determine our political future. This Wyoming excavation site behind me may hold the secret to a 14,000-year civilization, thanks to some rocks. Last summer, archaeologists in the town of Sunrise, Wyoming, stumbled across something big, or rather old, 14,000 years old to be exact. Private owner John Voigt, along with his team of archaeologists led by George Zeman and George Friesen, who passed in 2020, came across a once-in-a-lifetime finding.
We were just exploring places on the terrace where we thought they might have camped. And we finally got down about 10 feet below the surface, and we started finding artifacts. And of course, we didn't know how old they were.
From an old red ochre iron mining site, they found stone chips and stone tools that date back 14,000 years. These recent findings were verified by the Baylor University and Beta Data Analytics through radiocarbon dating and OSL, or optically stimulated luminescence technology. These pieces came back with the exact same dates, making it older than the oldest population, the Clovis people, or 13,500 years ago.
Well, it just confirms that there were people here prior to the Clovis people. And we've thought that was possible, over the years, but we never had good data to back that theory up with. And now we're getting good data that will confirm, and we're going to have to learn who those people were and what they looked like and what kind of artifacts they were making compared to the Clovis people.
The Wyoming state archaeologist Spencer Pelton said there will still need to be more testing and peer reviewing to substantiate the claim.
A lot of people think that humans didn't really get to the New World that long ago, 14,000 years ago. That humans got here around 13,000 years ago. So pushing it back another 1,000 years is a pretty big deal with some pretty big implications. And I think in any case like that, it's good to kind of wait and see what kind of evidence is compiled to make the case that this is an intact, buried archaeological site that dates to that age.
This new finding could potentially be the oldest found cultural site to date in Wyoming, outside of Texas and New Mexico within North America.
This is the first time we've got those old dates like that from Wyoming. So as long as I keep doing research, we're going to keep learning stuff, you know. It's how science progresses. You just keep pushing the envelope, you know.
I'm Valeria Fugate, Wyoming News Now. Wyoming's slogan is the equality state, but it also has a legacy of discrimination. And now that legacy is spilling over to a group Wyomingites say they respect most in our state. According to FE Warren officers, 4 military families of color have transferred out of the state. The reason? These service members and their children face repeated racial discrimination from the community, including schoolmates. Military authorities spoke up and say the diversity our military brings is a source of strength in Wyoming.
Great communities are diverse. Great communities celebrate everybody that they have together with them. Great communities accept one another, and they don't tolerate behavior like this.
Barrington says this racism affects who stays, who chooses to come, and who invests in our city and our state. The military is our largest employer with over $400 million in payroll.
Our nuclear mission here is vital. I need talented people who can come to work. So when we start impacting our ability to bring in top talent, that is a strategic problem.
Governor Mark Gordon says racism weakens Wyoming.
It is troubling to me that we have soldiers that are protecting our very rights, that are feeling uncomfortable living here. And when we have Russia rattling sabers and China doing all that it's doing overseas, we should feel strongly about making sure that our military feels safe here and that they also know that Wyoming supports them 100%.
Air Force staff broke their silence in January when these ongoing issues came to a head. Officials say it got so bad, a serviceman's daughter became suicidal and another family's son was fined for fighting when racially berated. So what has been done and what works to fix it? We'll have some answers for you tonight at 10. A severe thunderstorm and tornado warning strong enough to lift this hay bale hit Laramie County, Wyoming yesterday. Shay Johnson was in the middle of giving her 2-year-old daughter a bath Monday night when she kept hearing an incessant text from her mom. Like any busy mom, she ignored her phone, but eventually went to check to see what the message was about. In the message, Shay's mom told her that a tornado was heading their way and she needed to shelter now.
I grabbed her, we ran downstairs, and I threw a mattress over our head and just held on to her and just prayed she was okay.
They held on while an EF2 tornado blew over her house for 30 minutes.
We had a localized area of concern. That's why we issued the Storm Prediction Center issued a severe thunderstorm watch. And then from there, our office takes over and issues the warnings.
That storm quickly turned into a tornado, lifting a nearby shed off its foundation and slamming it into the side of their house, gutting their brand new kitchen and roof. She also didn't know where her husband was.
My husband was in the shop, and I didn't know if he was okay or not.
Outside, Shay's husband, Bill, was in a silo shed trying to literally hold it down in place. The farmer said the storm flung hay bales miles away. It also tore up power lines, pelting hail, and causing property damage to other households, eventually bouncing to south of Kimball, Nebraska. Since the house sits in a more rural area, the Johnsons sat outside of the siren warning zone, which authorities are addressing thanks to the 6-penny funding. After the storm blew over, EMS, law enforcement, Red Cross, Fire and Rescue came out and contacted emergency management.
We will pull in what resources are needed depending on the emergency for this. It's really board up the house, let their insurance company come in. If they need any food or temporary housing, we'll work to help them get that.
The National Weather Service has warned that this is an El Nino year, making weather potentially more severe for the next 2 years. The Johnsons and first responders said the community really rallied around their own on Monday night.
Even the chiefs were on the ladder and the roofs helping patch things up temporarily. They had farmers and ranchers from all around come and help. Her phone just blew up with the community. Do you need any help? What do you need? So it was a great sense of community, and we see that quite often in Wyoming.
The Johnsons are just glad everything important stayed safe.
Just hold your family close.
I'm Valeria Fugate, Wyoming News Now.
This election day will come down to which party can turn out more voters. And with more than 42 million early votes already cast nationwide, it's setting up to be a big day. Alice Barr has the latest. We're just 5 days away from the electoral finish line, with big names crisscrossing the country to rally voters as several midterm races remain too close to call. Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.